Welcome to our first official Cyber Short series with Sophos, a LinkedIn live series with the goal to bring you insights on trending cybersecurity topics. Sophos acquired SecureWorks recently, which included the Counter Threat Unit, who deliver threat intelligence on the global threat landscape. Today, we're here to share some of those insights and how to use them to better defend your organizations from cyber threats. We're joined by Rafe Pilling, Director of Threat Intelligence. Rafe, thanks for joining us.
Susie, thanks for having me on. It's great to be back with Cyber Shorts with Sophos, and congratulations on your first Cyber Shorts hosting.
Thank you. So DragonForce brings us here today. DragonForce is a ransomware group that's hit the headlines over the past week or so, as they claim to have hit a series of high-profile British retailers. Can you tell us, what do you know about DragonForce?
Yeah, so although it's a term that's probably new to many people listening, DragonForce actually started out in around August 2023 as a traditional ransomware-as-a-service group. They started out using other people's leaked ransomware lockers and essentially tried to start their own scheme. They really kind of got things going around February 2024, announcing themselves on a variety of underground forums and really starting to rack up the victim count on their leak site. And then come March 2025, they've decided to rebrand themselves a bit and launch this cartel model, which is a really sort of a shift in their distribution model that allows affiliates to create their own brand, but leverage DragonForce capabilities.
So, taking a slight step back, you mentioned ransomware as a service. Can you just tell everyone briefly what that means?
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, ransomware as a service is a business model, a sort of a criminal business model that is used by a number of cybercrime groups these days, and they provide the encryption binaries used to encrypt systems in victim networks. Often they'll provide a range of services around that, perhaps negotiation services with victims. They'll provide the the leak blog, where stolen data will be published if it's leaked. And they provide all the sort of core services, and they work with affiliates who actually conduct the intrusions, steal data, and then work with the ransomware, the RaaS provider, to publish that data and extort the victim.
Great. Until early last year, Lockbit was really the biggest brand in ransomware. And we were talking earlier with the journalist about the time when they paid affiliates to promote their brand by getting their logo tattooed on them. Um, that seems to be quite different. What's different about the cartel approach that DragonForce is championing?
So yeah, as you said, Lockbit placed a real premium on their brand. They did provide their own sort of encryption tools and other services, but it came to the point where they really said, look, you get victims however you want. Just come to us with your data, and we'll you can promote it through our blog, and people will know who we are. They'll know our reputation. They use the power of that brand and reputation to intimidate people. DragonForce really turned that model on its head. I mean, partly perhaps due to some of the major law enforcement takedowns against groups like Lockbit, where they acted as that central pivot point, and then that made them sort of vulnerable to disruption. So DragonForce now give affiliates the option to use all of the DragonForce capabilities and services, but create their own brand and operate under their own brand. And so affiliates have access to a complete management system, which provides a comprehensive backend, including a leak site or leak blog. They'll provide encryption tools for Windows, Linux, ESXi, BSD, and other common targets within networks. They provide things like secure file storage services, a Tor-based leak site, so that's based on the Onion router. It's sort of the dark web, a way of people being able to anonymously access these websites and interact with them, which obviously cybercriminals love. Uh, Negotiation tools, and a range of other capabilities that ransomware affiliates prize. So they can get all that capability, but do it under their own brand. And we may start to see groups coming out and taking advantage of that offer.
And in the context of the attacks we've seen on retailers in the UK over the last week or so, there has been mention of Scattered Spider as a group using DragonForce under this model. Scattered Spider being the group that were responsible for the attack on the MGM and a series of other casinos more than a year ago. What's your take on their involvement?
It's I was trying to explain this to some friends over dinner at the weekend, and as soon as you start to explain it, it immediately sounds like you're talking about a cast of comic book characters. You got DragonForce and Scattered Spider. But of course, ultimately, behind all that, we have some very serious cybercrime. We have attacks on retailers. I mean, in the case of one of those retailers, something like 700 million wiped off the value of the
Mhm.
company's stock. Obviously, there'll be some very stressed out and tired individuals working with those organizations, trying to get them back up and running and respond to these incidents. So it is, yeah, and absolutely very serious. So DragonForce themselves, that's a brand. They created that, they put that out there, and they operate under that brand, and they use it to so that everyone knows their sort of reputation. Scattered Spider, on the other hand, was a name created by a cybersecurity vendor, and it's sort of a code name they use to, and we have our own sort of naming scheme for threat groups, but we use it to refer to specific sets of cyber activity. However, Scattered Spider has now kind of evolved into a catch-all term for attacks conducted by a loosely organized sort of cybercrime collective that kind of orbits this set of forums and encrypted chat channels known as the COM. And so, while people are talking about Scatter Spider, the reality is the original group, as defined by that name, is probably not responsible. What may be the case is an individual who moves within that amorphous com group and works with some of the other participants in that group, may be behind this intrusion. And we maybe see a more of a Scatter Spider style attack rather than actually something that will be linked to the traditional definition of that group. What is likely the case, or what we suspect, is that aspects of these intrusions leverage social engineering against help desk staff or IT staff, asking them to help reset passwords or circumvent multi-factor authentication or otherwise bypass normal authentication processes. And that is a hallmark of attacks conducted by Scatter Spider or other similar groups and individuals that operate in that wider group. They are very good at talking themselves into access over the phone.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, with that in mind, what advice can you give for organizations to help them potentially detect if this group has infiltrated their organization?
I mean, the real important takeaway isn't so much about who the group is. It is
Mhm.
what can organizations do to do exactly that, to detect this kind of activity early. Think about, how would we detect a social engineering attack? How would our staff respond in those kind of scenarios? Do we have reporting pathways where people can flag malicious activity? So I mean, we've been advising customers and others on scatter spider style tradecraft for a long time. We talk about making sure that you empower your help desk staff and customer services staff that operate the phones and maybe focused on IT processes to feel empowered to say no, not to respond to pressure if someone's on the phone telling you they're a senior executive or some other individual in position of authority, to not allow them to use that authority to try and pressure you into bypassing the standard process. So making sure the help desk staff are empowered and that they have a reporting pathway is really important. Obviously, things like using multi-factor authentication is a very strong recommendation, but these individuals are pretty good at talking their way around even when multi-factor authentication is in place. So it's definitely a necessity, but not a guarantee of prevention. And then on top of that, if these individuals do succeed in getting you want to be well positioned to detect unauthorized access, suspicious
Mhm.
access, making sure there's monitoring in place to detect logins from unusual locations, use of non-standard, non-corporate VPNs, for example. And this might show up as things like impossible travel alerts, users logging in from new and unfamiliar locations, that kind of thing. And then finally, auditing the use of high privilege accounts, domain admins, cloud admins, things like that, looking for any suspicious or unusual activity, perhaps out of normal business hours, or doing things that they haven't done before. Deployment of what would otherwise be legitimate remote management tools, but again, these groups don't necessarily rely on malware that much. They will use legitimate tooling that might not trigger security alerts, but would be unusual for that environment, and they'll use that to gain access and maintain access once they've talked their way into getting a password from somebody.
Great. And so, as a sort of final thought, then, how do you advise that organizations do best protect themselves?
I mean, the first thing is that defense is absolutely possible. While these individuals are good at what they do, they are no match for robust cyber hygiene. All the things we normally talk about, patching, particularly on perimeter systems, multi-factor authentication. These days we talk about phishing-resistant multi-factor authentication.
Mm.
Phishing is another tactic that is, I mean, broadly used, but has also been used by individuals linked to scattered spider-style attacks. Um, User awareness training is a big one. So, I mean, if you work in retail, hopefully this will become part of the sort of training manual or training process for future help desk staff and IT staff. Anyone who picks up the phone to an external caller should be aware that there's a chance that that person is not who they're claiming to be or not doing what they claim to be doing. So, continuous user awareness training and vigilance is a big part of this. And then obviously technical controls, broad deployment of EDR, NDR, and XDR solutions, coupled with collection of and the integration of authentication and access logs, puts an organization in a really strong position to detect things like account takeovers or unauthorized access before it becomes too serious.
Thank you very much for sharing all those insights with us, Rafe. And thanks for everyone for taking the time to join us today. Stay tuned for future Cyber Shorts episodes coming soon. And for more insights and information from us, make sure you're reading our blog and following our social channels to get our newsletter.
Thanks, Susie.
Thanks.